Welcome everyone to Forever Paws Animal Shelter Straight from the Paws. Today I have two guests with me, a father and son volunteer group, I shouldn't say group, partnership. This is Gary and this is Travis.
Hiya.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about volunteers. You know, volunteerism at the shelter is a very, very important aspect of Forever Paws Animal Shelter. Without our volunteers, such as these two young fine men here, we would not be able to do the job that we do. I have a very small staff, and we need volunteers. So I'd like to just talk to them a little bit about how they got involved with the shelter and to give some ideas for families out there that they may find something a little bit more different to do on the weekends with their children or even during the summer. We do have age requirements, and that's important to know. You can come to the shelter and volunteer for community service. We have a volunteer coordinator. You can get the number from the shelter. And we have our orientations, usually the first Sunday of the month, and it's on a Sunday morning for about 9:30 for a couple of hours, depending on how many people show up. Everyone is required to do the orientation, and we ask that everyone do at least 20 hours of volunteering at the shelter so that you know, you get into a routine and understand it. Some people do the 20 hours, some people say, well, I only have community service for 10, and they no longer want to do more than 10. But we do ask for a commitment of 20 hours. So let's get started with Gary and Travis. First of all, Gary, how did you decide to volunteer at the shelter?
Well, it's funny you should say we were looking for something to do as a family, and Travis and my wife and I all went to the orientation one Sunday. I think I heard about it through someone at work, and we were looking for something positive to do, something we could do as a family, and something we would all enjoy.
Yep.
Okay. And so far so good, Travis?
Yep.
So far so good. Good. All right. Now, Travis, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a freshman at Bristol Aggie. I'm currently in freshman exploratory. I plan to get small animal as my first choice of major, large, second choice, and natural resource, third.
So you've got a set plan, and Bristol Aggie is very competitive. So if you don't make your first choice there, you've already got your ideas of what you want for second and third. That's wonderful. All right, that's good. Now, Gary, you come on with Travis all the time.
We try to get there every Saturday.
Every Saturday, okay. And Travis, what do you enjoy most about doing there, being at the shelter?
Well, we know some of these dogs they've been abused. Some of them have been owner surrenders. So they deserve a second chance in life.
Absolutely. So what do you do?
Well, what me and my dad do is we go to the shelter, we walk the dogs. Depending on the weather, we usually leave them out in the outside kennels, give them love, play with them.
Good, all right. And what do you think about it, Gary?
I think it's great. We are dog lovers from way back, and this is something we can do together. We enjoy doing it. The best part is when we go back the next week and we look at the adoption chart and we see what dogs have been adopted from the last week. And we get attached to some of the dogs because some of them have been there for a long time. Right. But it is gratifying to know that Forever Paws is a no-kill shelter. I think a dog last week had been there since we'd been there, and we'd been there for 5 months, and he just got adopted. So that was nice to know that there's someone out there for all these dogs.
There are, and you know, the thing that I think that's what you mentioned is about the amount of time they've been there. And I will say in the last year or so, the animals are coming in and leaving quicker than they used to, which for whatever reason it may be, I don't know if it's how our administrator puts them out there in the public. You know, everybody should know that we have Facebook, we're on Twitter, we have our own website. You can always go on and look for the animals. But people say to me, gee, I go in one day and I see an animal, I put an application, and then I'm not the person that got the dog, and then I have to go back, or cat. And I say, well, I understand that, but we try to do an adoption. It's not like you're coming in to purchase an animal, you're coming in to adopt someone to your family. And I think that's what people have to understand. So when our administrator tries to match the family with the animal, it takes a little bit of time. And I try to explain that to people when I'm there or when people ask me. It's one of the things I'd like to show on people to understand in our audience is that we do an adoption. We just don't say, okay, you got your money, here you are, you can go. We look into a lot of different things, and that's very important. Now, you mentioned about the animals coming in and out. One of the things I'd like to mention too is, isn't it nice when you walk in on the right-hand side, you look for the month of, you look at the month and you see how many animals have actually been adopted in the last week or so. So you can tell the difference. I mean, the month of February, I think it was like 43 or something like that. That's a lot of, it's a lot of animals for a shelter. And we work very, very hard with that. So do you do anything else while you're there? You basically do the dog walking and socializing the dogs?
Yeah, and sometimes we do some cleaning. We've cleaned the kennels, and we will go out and play with the dogs a little bit. And wearing our T-shirts, sometimes people come and they'll ask us questions about the dogs and how they walk, and it's been a good experience for us. We plan to keep doing it.
Great. Now, when you're walking the dog, that's another thing. Most people think, oh, you just go in and I can just, take the dog and go on the leash. And some of the dogs have never been on a leash. So I saw one day when I was down there, I saw you said, okay, Travis, get a control of that dog, because they really are difficult to work with sometimes.
Yeah.
You find
Since
that.
some of them, they're not exactly, very well behaved.
Yes,
Right.
that's true.
And he's a little over 100 pounds, and some of the dogs are bigger than he is.
Sure.
So, he takes the bigger dogs and does the best he can. But you're right, a lot of them aren't trained to walk on leashes, so it's it's a good workout.
It's a good workout. And how long do you guys stay there approximately?
2 to 3 hours.
2 to 3 hours? So you would highly recommend doing that as a family member?
Absolutely.
Yep.
We sometimes my wife Laura comes with us, and we do it as a family, and it's gratifying. And then we go to lunch afterwards, and so it's something we can look forward to doing on Saturday. And like I said, we missed last week, and we're looking to go and see who got adopted in the last 2 weeks.
That's always a good thing, to find out when one of your, and again, you can't help but have your favorites too. You have a favorite and you see, well, how's that going to work out for that animal? I hope. And then sometimes you're there when they get the adoption.
Yep.
And then you get to see who adopted them, and it's a good feeling. It's a really good feeling. So Travis, have you been working with small animals at school yet?
No, I'm currently in freshman exploratory, where we go rotate through the different majors to see which one is our best, the one we like the most.
Okay. Now, I know a little bit about, I used to be a coordinator for high school for getting into different schools and stuff. So you are at Bristol Aggie. You had to apply to Bristol Aggie, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was a competitive type of school to get into.
Yeah, I guess so.
But you did okay.
Yep.
You obviously got in pretty well. So you're not too concerned about that. Okay.
Nope.
That's good. So have you got at least had the opportunity to see at Bristol Aggie the larger animals and the smaller animal area? And I know they used to
I
do.
have.
And they do, I know that Dr., I think I'm going to get the wrong name, so I won't mention his name, but a doctor from Rehoboth used to do the actual operations there as well and get involved with them. So that's another way of looking at it. Also, again, I'll put a plug in for the BCC program here. BCC has a fantastic, I don't know if you're aware of it, but you might want to look into it. I know you're only a freshman, but time flies very fast. We have a program here at BCC now that is an animal husbandry program, which is working with with smaller animals. They also work with larger animals. They work at a zoo as well, and they work at farms. They work with the larger animals, so you can get some experience. So working at Bristol Aggie, getting your educational experience there. If you want to go on, your dad was saying something, you might want to be training dogs. There's a good training school close by in Connecticut. There's a few around, but I know there's a really good one in Connecticut. But the other thing is, the program now at BCC is a program where they're diversifying, they're getting more teachers in the animal husbandry program, and they're working with them and helping them come up with different programs here. So it's a 2-year program. You have to go through your sciences, and you get an associate's degree from Bristol Community College, which might be something in the future you might think about. And I don't know if you're aware of it because you're there on weekends, but we also have Bristol Community College students that come and actually use our facilities as a learning technique tool for them as well. So that is also something very interesting. So I like the idea of what you're doing. And again, I talk to the audience and say, there are some kids like during the summer and they say, I don't know, I can't get a job, I don't know where to go. And I think listening to Gary and Travis, you understand that you could volunteer at a shelter, not necessarily Forever Paws, but look at a program where you could get an idea. If you're not sure what you want to do, but you're thinking, well, I might be interested in work with animals. And most people say, well, I want to come because I like animals. Well, that's a good part of it, but then you also have to be able to work with the animals if you don't have the patience. And when we tell volunteers as well, there's cleaning to be done. There's, you know, as you said, working in the kennels. It's a lot of work. We open at 11 o'clock. The staff gets there at 8, so they only have a few hours to get that shelter in a situation where people can come in and actually visit the animals. And we also try to make it very homey. You know, I had one volunteer who's been on our program a couple of times. You know, she likes to get the cat area where it's very homey, and she likes to match the flannels that she puts out for them and the bedding, so everything matches so that the animals, you know, I don't think the animals really care about the color if they're matching or not, but she feels that the atmosphere is good for them to see that. And you mentioned about having customers come in and you talk to the customers while you're working with them. How does that go for you?
It goes well. They see us walking the dogs, and they come up and ask questions, you know, because we usually check the board to see the notes. It'll say if they're good with cats or good with kids, or so we can give information that way. And sometimes they'll go in and talk to the staff, and we'll bring the dogs in. And it's been very positive, and for him, like you said, you know, he's decided he wants to work with the animals, specifically dogs, and this has been a good experience for him because it's not all great stuff. There's cleaning dog poop, and there's walking wild dogs, and so it's good to see it's not all you know, great stuff. It's hard work, and sometimes it's difficult. So. As a freshman in high school, it's good that he's decided this. You know, he's certainly far ahead of where I was when I was a freshman in high school. So this has been a win-win for us.
That's great, and I appreciate you saying that. That's why I invited you both here, because I think it's important for people to understand. I know within my own family, my goddaughter is 13, and she is volunteering through her church at our shelter. She actually kind of grew up at the shelter. When I'd have to go in, she'd pop in with me, and she'd like the cats, and she'd want to go socialize cats and, you know, things like that. But initially her big thing was she wanted to be a marine biologist.
Right.
And, you know, that's a great thing. And, you know, we took her to Clearwater in Florida, and she got to, you know, work, you know, do the whole program with them. But the bottom line is now she's turning around and saying, well, I don't know, maybe I'd like to work with all different animals, maybe small animals. So she's going to be going to college, high school, not college, oh geez, high school, you know, in a year or so, and now she's sort of diversifying. And again, because we're a family that works with animals, she's sort of gotten involved with it. There may be something else when she goes on to high school that she finds out she's more interested in, but she's had the opportunity to look around and do what she's got to do, and I think that's important. I do know that some schools in the area do require community service. Does Bristol Aggie require community service, do you know?
I don't think so, since, well, I've never done community service.
Right.
Okay.
Not that we know of yet, but it's been good because at Forever Paws there's dogs, there's cats, we've seen rabbits.
Yep.
So it's not just you know, dogs. So
Right.
he's going to get exposure to working with cats, and so like you said, if he decides he doesn't want to be a dog trainer, he may want to be an animal control officer.
Right.
So there's a lot of different avenues he can take. So.
You know, you're funny that you mention ACO, because that's one of the things. Actually, I'm a representative from Forever Paws. When they first started the animal program here, they needed, they have advisory boards for different groups, and so they needed an advisory board. And I became our representative and our treasurer as well. And we had to put some people on board, and they didn't have people. So I sort of helped them get acclimated and figure out what was going to be, because the professor here wasn't from the area, so she didn't know a lot of organizations. So
Right.
I helped put it out, and one of the things that we had originally said was that we wanted to see if we could do something for ACO. We just had our bi-yearly meeting, and that was something that was talked about again, and saying that we might be able to, it's not a definite, come up with at least some certification programs here at the college. So there's a lot available, and like again, we're very fortunate to have Bristol Community College in Fall River. You know, we have some satellites close by as well, but the main campus I think is this campus, and we're fortunate to have the program here because it has helped with the animal sciences. And I'm very proud because I remember the first year when they had their graduating class, it was like 8 or 9 students, and I was asked, you know, would you come and be the guest speaker? And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I went, and I said, well, you know, and I was very proud of the group that was there and so on, and now they participate in the commencement here at BCC, and they're part of the group, and they wear the caps and gowns and stuff. So very happy to hear that, very proud of the program. So we do have a lot of that available here as well. And you know, like you say, kids don't know what they want to do, and I think that, you know, a high school diploma gets you somewhere, but going on to college or some certificate program will definitely benefit someone in the future, as Travis. And hopefully, like you say, he's got a head start on this, and that's really a wonderful thing.
Well, we saw on the website yesterday the animal husbandry program that's actually run by a graduate of BCC. So we were looking at that, and we didn't even know about that until we saw it yesterday, and that's definitely something that would you know, potentially be an interest down the road.
Yeah, it's really, it's like I said, really awesome. And sometime like this summer, if you got some time off, I don't know if they probably have summer classes too. They might be down there, and you can see exactly what they do. A lot. They do a lot at the shelter, and I think it's very beneficial for everyone that you know, is interested in it. You know, it's and one of the things that I find too, and it's just from personal experience. When I was in high school, I thought I wanted to be a nurse, and you know, and I did a program. My school was affiliated with St. Anne's Hospital, and I became a nurse's aide and did a program there, and decided this isn't what I want to do with my life. For various reasons. I mean, I stuck it out. I stuck the program out. It was a good part-time job, but as time went on, I decided this is not really what I want to do with my life. Now, I went in the back door of education and ended up being a teacher for my entire career. Now I have a second career, which is Forever Paws Animal Shelter, which takes up a lot of my time and effort. But again, I think it's a worthwhile cause. I think, as you well both know, that the animals don't have a voice in themselves. We are the voice. You two representing the shelter is a voice out there for the animals, and we greatly, greatly appreciate that. Now, would you give anybody words of advice, Gary? A father, you know, coming in with their son, how, you know, any advice?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It's definitely a good experience. You're providing a civic duty. It's good to know the animals are safe. The animals they're not hungry, and they're warm. And you know, one thing I don't think people know is there are a lot of good animals there. I think people think, you know, shelter, it's a stray dog that's wild. There are a lot of good dogs that are given up for different reasons, whether it's the owner is elderly and can't take care of it. So you know, we see a lot of nice families come down and they get nice dogs, and it's a win-win for everybody, because the dog needs a second chance, and these people are giving the dog a second chance.
Thank you for saying that. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. I think one of the things that always has made, I remember years ago we had a different manager, when a family came in and adopted, one of the things that they don't do now, but they used to clap. You know, they used to say, you know, everybody clap and say, the staff would come out and say goodbye, you know, to the animal and stuff. Unfortunately, right now, we are kind of busy, which is a good thing. So they may, if it's a cat person, they usually come out and they, you know, they'll ask, and they always ask the families to put a, you know, a picture or something about the animal list, so you know how the animal's doing. Some animals do actually come back and visit, and sometimes that's good, sometimes it's hard, because if the staff's really busy and it's a busy day, you know, you don't want them to feel like, oh, well, they don't really care. They do care. But like I said, I have a very, you know, limited staff, and they work very hard, and I'm very proud of the staff. They do fostering as well. You know, we have foster homes, so people looking for volunteer situation and maybe can't come to the shelter, but would love to have animals. We have a foster program that we have some, you know, smaller dogs that are out in foster right now. Some kittens are out in foster care with a mom kitten. So, you know, that's also an opportunity for families, you know, if they can't come in because they can't work at the shelter or volunteer their time. Fostering is another aspect that's available. I think it's important for people to know about that as well.
And the staff is really, really dedicated. I mean, we've seen a couple of times where people have adopted a dog, and it just didn't work out, and the staff takes the dog right back and, you know, puts him right back into the adoption pool. And some of the dogs are just really, really good dogs, and people just need to give them a chance.
It takes a while, and I thank you for pointing that out, because I think, you know, I mean, sometimes I monitor our Facebook, and I don't monitor Twitter as well, but I monitor Facebook, and sometimes there are some people that, you know, have their opinion that they weren't treated fairly or they weren't treated nicely, and, you know, and again, I'm not going to say no staff is perfect. You don't know what happened before the person that came in before you. I think sometimes people don't understand how the adoption process goes, and they think, well, I was told. If you're told that your adoption has been approved or your application's been approved, doesn't necessarily always mean the time that you're getting that specific dog you applied for. It may be that there are 2 or 3 other people, and we don't do a first come, first serve, which you guys probably know that. It's not a first come, we try to unite the family with the dog that's going to work at best. And sometimes if you come in and your application's been approved and you have what we call a meet and greet, and you've done some of those with the animals, and the meet and greet doesn't work out well, of course, we're not going to say, okay, well, you can take, yeah, it may take some time, but if we have a family that has no other animal in the house and is waiting to, you know, adopt as well, it's a judgment call sometimes, and it's not always easy. And sometimes people are a little bit offended. I'm never going back there again. Okay, you know, but I think, like I said, no one is infallible. Everyone makes mistakes, and sometimes a dog goes into a household and it just doesn't work out, and we ask them to return the dog to us. Yep. You know, again, it's very difficult financially to keep doing this, but we try to do the best that we can. Right now, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but I'm trying to work on a project for the shelter, and where the play yards are up front, I'm trying to get to work on having a shaded area in the play yard for the dogs. So we've got a couple of college programs that have been helping us out, and we've got a grant that we received, just a small grant, but enough to help us to build it, because usually what happens is we put in just tarps on the top, and
Yep.
when the rain comes and stuff, it doesn't work. So that's just another thing. If people are saying, well, you know, I can't do anything, I can't come and volunteer like you guys do. But as a family, we call them the Lemonade Kids. You know, I had a little girl that just recently adopted a cat. You know, they were finally finding a cat, and they finally got a cat Thursday, and her birthday is next week. And she told her mom, you know, I don't want any presents this year. I want to give something towards a shelter. I want my friends to bring presents for the animals. We do have a lot of that, and well appreciated. You know, but you can, like I said, of college, UMass Dartmouth student is going to have a dodgeball game, a tournament, I think they call it, and the proceeds are going to go to Forever Paws. You know, so that's very helpful. And sometimes we designate certain things, projects, so that the animals, people know that it's going. Everything that we do, it goes to the animals.
Yep.
You know, yes, we have a staff. Like I said, a minimal staff. I try to work with volunteers, but also I have to have the staff there that's capable of dealing with all the animals and showing the volunteers what's going on. I mean, sometimes volunteers, you know, say, well, gee, you know, I saw so-and-so doing this, but then I didn't realize I couldn't do that. And, you know, and there's just certain things, like, for example, the laundry. We used to let the volunteers do the laundry and the washers and dryers, but they kept on breaking down. You know, so everybody, you do your laundry at home, you do it different than you do it at an animal shelter. So we say, okay, just the staff works on the, you know, the laundry. It's not because we don't trust people, it's just the fact that things break down, and we have to make sure that it doesn't happen. So those are the things that people out, you know, in our audience can understand, that if you have something that you want to do, like this one special project that you want to, you know, put a Girl Scout troop together. We have a lot of those that come through and help us out. School programs. I have 2 outreach people on my board of directors. I have one that has 2 dogs that goes out into the community, and she trained them. She's got good citizenship and all that, and she goes out into nursing homes and school programs and works with them. And then we also have the outreach programs where we go out and just maybe on a Saturday, go to a couple of Walmarts. We have a couple of Walmart things, and people just go and collect money and let people know what's going on at the shelter. That's very helpful. We're a nonprofit. You know,
Yeah.
we don't have any federal government, you know, state, whatever funding. We have no funding. Everything we've done, this is our 21st year, is done by our adoptions and the community helping us out. So what you've done beyond what you're thinking about, you're also helping us at the shelter, what you're doing, you're helping the animals, you're giving them socialization and so on. And what happens is, though, I will be very honest and say this to our audience, a lot of people say, well, I want to just come in and do what, what Gary and Travis are doing. They're training the dogs, they're walking with the dogs. It's not just playing with the dogs. I mean, I do have some people that will come in, but we ask you to help. You got to get the animals to be in a clean environment, because if they're not, then they're not going to remain healthy, and that's not good for them. So we really have to make sure that they are healthy and they do well and move on in the right direction.
There's so many different things you can do. I mean, we'll be walking the dogs and someone will pull up with a couple of bags of dog food and we'll go help them bring them in. People are bringing dog toys in. Yep. Monetary donations. We're at the point where, we could show up at pretty much any time and grab a couple leashes and start walking them. So, you're not restricted by a certain schedule. They always need volunteers, so there's a lot of different ways you can help.
Right, and I think that like you say, you've been there for a while, and the staff knows that what you're doing in training. You let them know what's going on, and then it's just a quick, all right, we're going in and we're going to do this and move on. And I think that's what's important. I think people need to understand that. We lost our walking path.
Yes.
We used to have a great walking path. We lost that because our neighbor is leasing out his business, so we can no longer walk over there. So, and if anybody's been on Linwood Street in the last year or so, you've seen that we have a whole bunch of new neighbors down the street. So you're very limited for where you can walk now. I'd love to, on our property, try to get someone with a backhoe and sort of make a path in the back, but that doesn't seem to be something that's doable right now. But it's always on our to-do list. So if anybody's out there that's got a backhoe that's willing to come in a day and do a path for us in the back, and again, I may be the president of the board, but in the past I have been out there and I have cleaned shrubberies and cleaned out all the areas. We've had tons of tires that were just left back there.
Yeah.
You probably have seen them there. It's a mess, but I remember getting a dumpster and moving a whole someone put a whole vinyl house siding of the house on the property before we got there, of course, and to make room and to get that path that we originally had, we just cleared it out. Myself and one employee and a volunteer, and we went down and we just cleared the whole area out. And again, some things we're fortunate. There's another thing too. If there's any college groups, I've got a college group that was supposed to come in maybe tomorrow, a tennis group from UMass Dartmouth, and they're going to come in for one day and just clean and do some spring cleaning. So any groups that are out there that want to come in and do something, you contact the shelter. They'll give you my number. I work it out with our manager, Casey, and then we go from there. So do you gentlemen have any parting words you'd like to give my audience? Any plugs here or there?
It's a really good experience.
Yep.
It's very gratifying to see the dogs. Who was that big pit bull we had?
There was one pit bull who we very loved. He was very big but very sweet. His name was Tyson.
Tyson,
yeah.
yes.
So we would sit out front on Saturdays with Tyson, because to just look at him would strike fear in most people, but we would try to show him that he was
he really is a sweet boy.
So it can be very gratifying. It's good to do as a family. It's, like I said, it provides a civic duty. You feel good about what you're doing, it's a win all around for us.
I want to thank you both for your volunteering and also for being willing to come on the show today and let our audience know about how it can be a family, community service type function, what you've done. I really appreciate what you've done. I've had the opportunity to meet you at the shelter, and hopefully you will stay on, and hopefully you get your first choice at Bristol Aggie. If not, your second.
I hope I
will. I hope you will too, but you never know. You just keep on plugging and you'll find something. Like I said, there's a lot of avenues out there that we just talked about today that you probably weren't aware of, here, especially at BCC. There's a lot going on. So I want to thank you and thank your audience for joining us today, and I hope everybody has a great day until we meet again, straight from the Paws.
Thank you.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.